I'd like to welcome everyone to Access Opportunity. It's our first procurement forum. It's being presented by the Pasadena Chamber of Commerce. Our intention here today is to basically assist our small businesses and the larger members of the Chamber to figure out how we can do business together. We're very pleased to have a terrific panel today to explain procedures and talk a bit about the services and products they purchase in the local business market. I'm C.L. Keating. I'm with UBS Financial Services. I'm also a member of the Pasadena Chamber of Board and the chairman of the Business and Economic Development Subcommittee. Before I introduce our panelists, I would like to thank the Pasadena City College Community Education Center and the new PCC Small Business Development Center for hosting us this afternoon. Thank you very much. Also, Pasadena City College is starting up the Small Business Development Center to provide services, advice, coaching, and counseling for businesses in our local communities. I'm also especially pleased to thank the Foothill Workforce Investment Board for sponsoring this afternoon's forum. The Workforce Investment Board has information about their program that can provide up to $7,000 to businesses that provide on-the-job training. They have a table in the back, and I'd encourage you to stop by and learn about this program that can offset some of your personnel costs. In addition to the panel presentations, these presenters and representatives of some other corporate members all have tables where you can learn about their procedures and talk with their representatives about how you can work with them. Now I'm pleased to introduce our panelists in the order that they will be presenting. I'm going to be brief so we have as much time as possible for you to hear from each of them this afternoon. So from the City of Pasadena, we're very pleased to have Larry Hammond. Larry is the city's purchasing administrator in charge of procurement for our local government and its operations. Second, we have Rebecca Sims, the Small Business Liaison Officer at Caltech, where she is responsible for supporting small business concerns, including those of socially and economically disadvantaged businesses in Caltech's purchasing programs. Third is Carl Bird, the Acquisition Division Manager at Jet Propulsion Laboratory, in charge of procurement and contracts for laboratory support and major space systems. And finally, Daryl Fernandez is Vice President and General Manager of Construction for Parsons. He has been involved with construction management and construction contracting projects for 20 years. At Parsons, he has been responsible for business development, construction, program startups, resource management, and operations. So let's get this started, and we'll have Larry from the city come up first. Please welcome Larry Hammond.
Thank you, CL. Good afternoon. I'm glad to see that so many people came out and talk about procurement and doing business with these organizations as well as the city of Pasadena. And this is something that's really, really important to, I know you all, as it is important to us. It's very important for us to make sure that we can establish partnerships. The city of Pasadena, we'll talk about it a little bit more, really wants to make sure we establish those key partnerships here locally in the city, and to make sure that you all are in the loop in all the kinds of things that we're doing, procurement activities that are going on. One of the things that comes up, and I'll start out with kind of the bigger items, is, how do you get into doing business with the city, and how do you get a contract with the city? One of the things that people hear about all the time is, well, we got to go out to bid. We got to be the lowest bidder. That's how we have to get in. Oh my goodness, that is so complicated and so crazy that we don't want to be a part of that, and we just probably don't want to do it. And that's one of the things that we want to try to get across today and continue going forward, to make sure that people understand that there's certain things that we have to do, certain things we have to have. We are guardians of the public dollar, and we have to make sure that things the money is spent in a correct way. So sometimes it seems a little complicated, seems a little different than other ways of just calling up and say, hey, can I come over and just do work for you? But I'm going to try to show you today a few things as to how you get entry into the city business, how you continue to respond to solicitations, and what we do and what we expect. First thing is use of specifications. The specification is usually what we call a formal bid. Formal bids typically are contracts that are awarded to the lowest, what we call the lowest of responsive and responsible bidder. Locally, we give a 1% preference. So if you have, that means in terms of those businesses that come in and bid and that are local, if you have a business address here in the city of Pasadena, you get a 1% preference. And on a large contract, that can be relatively significant. They generally require city council approval. So after the bids are reviewed and after we determine who in fact is the lowest responsible bidder, who met all the requirements of the specifications, they go to the city council, because city council has to approve that contract between the city and the vendor. Many times, especially for construction, we will require bonds. And I know that can be, especially for small businesses, that can be a concern. We require performance bond and/or payment bonds. And we'll be talking a little bit about that, and you can go back and talk to Antonio back at our table a little bit later about what we can do to offer you assistance in maybe getting bonds, performance and payment bonds. And also you need insurance. So you have general liability, workers' compensation. Those things are going to be needed for most contracts in the city. We also have what we call competitive selection. Many of you might, many of you might understand or see it as the request for proposal process. We go out for request for proposals generally for service related. This is not necessarily going to be for a low bidder. This is going to be for architects. This is going to be for other kinds of activities that are service related. Then what we do then is we actually look at the qualifications. We set out an RFP and we say, what are the qualifications that we need for the job that we want to do? The factors can include the individual vendor's ability to do that particular job. People can check references to see if we've done other things. Also, you'll be submitting a proposal as to how you plan on implementing. We will look at that as a major factor. And cost will be looked at. It won't be the determining factor, but obviously the city has to look at cost, and we'll use that as one of the evaluating factors when doing that. In terms of local businesses here, we can award a 5% preference, and that's in the evaluation, not on the cost factor, but in the evaluation process, a 5% preference to local businesses and small businesses. So in many cases, you can actually net a 10% preference. Those people who want to qualify for the small business, we have a small business preference. We have a reciprocity program with the state of California, so you'd have to register with the state to qualify as a small business, and we would need to see your certification as a result of that. So that's how you would do that. But a 10% preference can be significant when you submit a request for proposal in terms of your competitiveness against those competitors that are either not small and may not be from here in Pasadena. Sometimes in terms of an RFP, we can actually negotiate the terms of the contract in terms of price. So you can come in and say, here's what we want to do, and here's the project that we want to do, and how we, in the process, the scope of work, to do your scope of work, and how we want to complete this project. But we might look at it and say, you know what, maybe we can make an adjustment here, an adjustment there, so that we can come to an agreement on a price, especially if the price is a little bit higher than maybe the city expected to pay for that. City Council will approve that if that contract amount is over $75,000. And in some cases, you will need something, professional errors and omissions insurance, as well as the other general liability and workers' compensation insurance that I discussed a little bit earlier. Now, a lot of times, the best way to work, and the city spends annually over $100 million in goods and services. A large portion of that is not necessarily the big contracts where we're over at the Rose Bowl, or we're building something, or we're putting down streets and pipes and those kinds of things. Oftentimes, a lot of these contracts are the smaller contracts, those that are under $25,000. Those go through an informal process, and many times that's a good way to kind of get your foot in the door with the city, is to look at coming into informal contracts that are available. And what will happen is the city departments will determine a need. They'll go out and get an informal quote. That can be done either by fax, phone, mail, or we can do it actually electronically online. I'll talk about vendor registration a little bit later, and we'll get into some of the specifics about that. If it's a contract that you want to, that's under $3,000, then the city staff can make that determination without having to go out for a quote. They can just say, we need this, and they're authorized to expend that level of dollar, that dollar level. They can do that. And 3 quotes are required between $3,000 and $25,000. Informal selection also it can use other criteria other than just price. We give a 5% local preference, and we still require insurance. Anytime we do services that are related to, that are going to be done on the premises at the city, we do require certain types of insurance. One of the programs that the City Council authorized a couple of years ago is what we call Pasadena First Buy Local program. Antonio Watson was here with me. He actually is the project manager for Pasadena First Buy Local. And basically we do a combination of things. One is that we do conduct outreach to local Pasadena businesses. One of the things that we do in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce, and make sure Paul gets the information as to what opportunities are available. And I know he sends that information out through his newsletter and other means to you all that are in the Chamber of Commerce. We identify and promote local hiring opportunities, so we work for hiring locally when we have projects such as the project that's going on with the Roller Bowl and other projects around the city. And we support and promote the application of local preferences that we can. And we create strategic partnerships. So we talked about earlier about bonding and potential financial assistance and those things. So we have strategic partners that we work with that can help provide those kinds of services to small and local businesses. One of the things you first want to do is make sure that you register with the city. You want to go to cityofpasadena.net online, and you go to bid opportunities, or you can go to PasadenaFirstBuyLocal.com. Either one of those will have a link where you can go to bid opportunities and actually register as a vendor with the city. It's going to just ask you basic information. You can put in information relative to whether or not you're a small business or not. It's going to be other kinds of questions. What do you sell? What services do you provide? And those are going to actually set you up in the database so that later on, when bid opportunities come up in those categories, you can be notified through email that that something is available for you. You can then go to the website, look at it. If it's something that you're interested in, you can download that document, and then you can look at it and make any kinds of, follow the directions and actually bid on that particular project. It'll also ask you something interesting. It asks about whether or not you're available in case of an emergency or a disaster. So we have a special, if you say yes, then it's going to bring up another set of questions to ask you. And you say, yes, I can provide certain kinds of help and assistance during that. You're going to actually get a facsimile of a purchase order actually printed out that you can print out at that point. And then you will be in our database. So should something happen here and around the city and we need to come to you for an emergency purchase, you said you're available, and we have emergency contact information that's going to be in there too. We can do that and actually work through the process of getting those items or services or goods in that case. Last year, you remember, or year before last now, on the end of the year before last, we had the windstorm in Pasadena. We needed to quickly rally people to come together to pick up trees, all sorts of debris, and get rid of stuff and provide these kinds of services. And we were able to go to our emergency database, contact people, and you have a place where you put in your cell phone numbers and your home phone numbers, so we can call you at home and say, look, we got a problem. Can you go down and open up the store and give us some stuff we need? And that can actually be a very good partnership that we have. With that, I want to say thank you for your attention. I think we're going to have a question and answer period with the panel afterwards. If there are any specific questions for me right now, I can take a couple of quick short ones, I think. And I'm going to have to leave. I got to go back to City Hall for a meeting at City Council committees are having this afternoon. But I'm leaving Antonio and Patty Romo are going to be here to answer questions and sit up on the panel and provide you any answers that you may need. And with that, thank you for your attention. Go ahead, questions.
What are the minimum coverages for bonding and/or liability?
It depends. The bonding will be for, say for instance, for it'll be a certain percentage. It could be 50% of the total project cost. If it's going to be for liability, you'll need to have, depending on the size of the project, maybe $1 million could be there. But we will send out those kinds of things in the solicitation, for that particular solicitation, what kinds of bonding and insurance coverages you need to have. Okay? All right, with that, I want to thank you for your attention. And after that, I want to introduce our next presenter, and that will be Rebecca Sims from Caltech.
Good afternoon. How's everyone? Good. My name is Rebecca Sims, and I'm actually representing Caltech as a consultant. I was with Caltech for 23 years, and now I kind of branched off and doing my own thing now, but assisting Caltech. Later on in the presentation, I'll introduce our actual Small Business Liaison Officer, Joey Jansen. But what I wanted to do is just give you a little bit of a background of Caltech. Just a few minutes ago, a gentleman came to our table and said, "Is this the Caltech?" And that's usually what we get a lot of times. It is a very, as the screen slideshow says, it's a world-renowned science and engineering research and education institution where extraordinary faculty and students translate big ideas into big discoveries. So we're known for that. But before I get into a little bit of the history of Caltech, I just wanted to discuss maybe a little bit of fun facts to see what you guys know, a little trivia. Did you know that Caltech's mascot is the beaver? Why? It's in homage to nature's engineer. That's why they chose the beaver. Did you know that Caltech is a certified olive oil distributor? Now, I want to know how many people knew that. Oh, we got a couple of them. Good, okay. Well, since 2007, the campus has hosted fall olive harvest festivals to collect tons of olives, which of course turns into olive oil. We have an actual area located on campus where it's called the Olive Walk. So, something that's new. The last fun fact is the Emmy-nominated television series, The Big Bang Theory. Anybody heard of that show? Yeah. It's set at Caltech, okay? And they actually taped some episodes on campus that featured a cameo appearance by the world-renowned astrophysicist Stephen Hawking. So we're on the map, okay? All right, back to business. Caltech, I'm sure all of you know, we're located in Pasadena on a 124-acre campus. We were originally founded as Throop University back in 1891. But then we renamed it to the California Institute of Technology in 1920. Yeah. We have approximately 300 faculty members, 600 research scholars, 978 undergraduate students, 1,253 graduate students, and 3,900 employees. So, should you do business with us, you would work with our employees, even our grad students, our faculty members, even our undergrad students, because they're involved. We actually have a small business records retention, how you get paid, or where the checks are dispersed from. Then we have our buyers, which is part of the actual purchasing department, accounts payable, and our small business area, along with tax reporting. The way the procurement services department is organized, we have Sharon Patterson. She's our Associate Vice President for Finance and Treasurer. And then under her is Tina Lowenthal. I don't know if many of you may be familiar with Tina, but she's our Director of Procurement Service. She's actually a former JPLer. So, and then under her we have Monica Marquez, who's the Purchasing Associate Director, and then Jay Wood, who handles our payment services, our accounts payables department. And then we have our functional liaison, Sherry Weed. And then we have Joseph Jansen, who is our Small Business Liaison Officer. Joseph Jansen recently joined Caltech, and very good addition to Caltech. So with that thought in mind, I'd like to bring Joseph up, and he will discuss the areas that you really would be concerned with, some of the items that are commonly procured by Caltech. I'll turn it over to you, Joseph.
Thank you, Rebecca. As Rebecca mentioned, I just got started on February 25th, and so she's been there for quite some time, and so I've got some big shoes to fill, but learning quite a bit as I've been there. She already mentioned a few facts about Caltech, but I'll just throw in there, it was founded in 1891, and that's how much a bottle of olive oil costs, if anybody was interested in picking that up. Come by the bookstore. As Rebecca mentioned, there's different departments on campus that are doing various projects. A little feedback there. We can be, I'll just speak a little louder. It can be anything from facilities doing projects on campus and many research projects and contracts, grants, and those kind of things, whatever the various things that are going on campus. So as you can see here, there's common items that are procured, anything from electronical instrumentation, test hardware, or test equipment, hardware, software, and of course with the 3,900 faculty members, we've got a lot of offices, need a lot of chairs, need a lot of computers and that kind of equipment. And again, with the construction going on campus, you also find that there's a need for contracted supplies and electrical supplies and various other items there as well. This slide talks a little bit more about how you guys can get connected with Caltech. We have a small business e-directory that we utilize on campus. Back there, if you come by and see us after the presentations are over, we have some postcards where it gives you a little more instruction of how you can apply and create a registration on our website. There you can indicate, similar to the city of Pasadena, it sounded like, you can indicate your business name, what kind of services you provide, products you provide, and what kind of small business you are. You can attach any kind of certificates as far as certifications you may have, depending on the small business that you guys have. And from there, when there is a need in these contracts and other things, campus can come to me or our small business department, and if they're needing any kind of help or specific information from the directory, it is available to them on campus as well as through me. And annually, we also do recertification if anything's changed. That way we can keep our information up to date. I know companies change their spectrum as far as what they do, and you guys can go in and add other kind of services you may provide, and also just keep us up to date with contact information should we ever find a need for your business. And also, importantly, maintaining contact with myself and we have another person in our department. Between her and I, we can kind of manage any inquiries that come in, and also you can send information to us, and then we can filter that out to campus. And again, if they're ever finding a need, then we can establish that contact with them. And again, this is our small business department. It's myself, the liaison officer, and then Monique, who is also taking over for another person that had been with Caltech for about 10 years. And so her and I together are taking over the program and just seeing ways that we can improve it, seeing ways that we can gather information from our community here and get that information out to our campus so that we can both utilize in the contract needs, but also just as doing our part as, of the community here in Pasadena as well. And yeah, with that, I'll turn it over to Carl. Thanks.
Okay. The bad news is I have a lot of slides. The good news is I'm going to blast through most of them. But as an opening remark, I'm Carl Bird, the Acquisition Division Manager at JPL. And we've got about 150 people doing contracting for missions and support of the lab. I've got Mr. Steve Alfrey in the back there, he's the head of our Business Opportunities Office. And with him is Edgar Murillo, our senior staff member. And we worked this very hard. Steve and his office ran a conference in Los Angeles a couple of weeks ago that we had 700 people at. We usually have thousands. Of course, government budgets being what they were, attendance was down a little bit. But the idea of that conference was to bring small businesses into contact with both JPL, and we had the big four there, Raytheon, Boeing, Northrop Grumman, and Lockheed Martin, as well as some other major contractors, so they could talk to them about subcontracts. So again, this office is the experts in helping you kind of get into JPL. And it's not easy. And I spent 40 years in the Air Force as a civilian around the country at big Air Force bases and later down at Space and Missile Systems Center. And you just can't, you can walk into the small business office and give them essentially your resume, fill out their little form. Probably nothing's going to happen. You got to learn how to market to the people that need your services, and that's what that office will do. So anyway, that aside, at JPL, I've only been there 5 years, so I'm brand new in JPL years. But we all like to brag a little bit. This is a great place here, working under Caltech here in Pasadena. Having worked there 5 years, it's a magical place to work, and it's pretty cool. It's in Pasadena. So let me give you just a few little looks here. Of course, the most recent one is the landing of Curiosity on Mars that went like clockwork, and the landing was so complicated. When I first saw the video with the animation of it a couple of years ago, I went, oh my gosh, you're kidding. Let me see, there's 10 things that could go wrong. But none of them did. But we're a federally owned research and development center. In other words, NASA owns the property at JPL, and they contract with Caltech to run the lab. So basically, NASA issues a contract to Caltech, and that mobilizes a group to run JPL, and that's the JPL team. And we're all Caltech employees. And so the annual funding comes to Caltech, but we deal directly with NASA on the programs and working the various assignments they give us. We work directly with them, but we report to the Board of Trustees of Caltech. Pasadena, 4,500 employees, about $600 million in purchasing. That's gone down a couple $100 million as the budgets go, so that ebbs and flows. But the important thing here, we've got 139 buildings, 177 acres, a lot to take care of, because it's not just the space systems that go to the outer planets. It's as our deputy director says, Air Force retired General Tatini, you got the roads and commodes too. When I came up here, I never had to deal with that, and that's a lot of work. Take care of 4,500 people. We do all kinds of robotic space missions, and world-renowned. If you think about landings on Mars, no other country on the planet has successfully landed anything on Mars. Russia hit it, and they hit it kind of hard, and they missed it once. But we're the only country that's been able to land anything on Mars, which is pretty cool. And then JPL's been doing it for quite a few years, so that's quite a feather in their cap. Some recent missions and things that are important. We both go to the outer planets, like Juno launched in 2011, and it's cruising to Jupiter. It'll get there in 2016, so a long ways. But on the other hand, Aquarius is studying the salinity of the oceans for the Earth. We have a lot of Earth missions that are studying climate and the environment and helping crop propagation and that sort of thing. Grail is looking at the moon, its interior, with twin satellites to figure out what the interior of the moon is like. So the variety of things that are going on at JPL is just boggles the mind. There's 18 spacecraft and 9 instruments across the solar system currently working. And we've got new things coming up, some earth science things, looking at carbon dioxide. InSight is going to look at Mars and the interior of Mars, but we have a lot of Earth missions. Earth science is very important because we need to understand our planet. And that's one of the reasons we're trying to understand Mars, because Curiosity's already found that it had the ability to support life, not just water, but conditions, so that we're trying to figure out what happened to Mars. And there's a lot of great information for humanity. This is a kind of a chart of our division and the managers. We're broken down into buying sections. So we have a commodities buying section that buys the small items, low dollar value items, fast moving things. I tell all the young people there, because generally that's where you start. It's like Groundhog Day. You buy a bunch of things today, well, you got to buy a bunch of things tomorrow. You just keep doing it. And then you move over into something like institutional support, where the contracts are larger for construction, or IT services, things like that, or universities. We have a section that deals with all the universities, basically worldwide, on all sorts of research topics. And then we have our flight projects group that works on the Mars Science Lab projects, Juno, and things like that. Okay. Now, we got a variety of things that we buy, and we buy them in different ways, but obviously commodities, like any other large organization, office machines and chairs and electrical supplies and things like that for the buildings, onto the really sophisticated flight systems and satellites and instruments, and then labor and services, both facilities and construction, IT services, and that sort of thing. IT services become a bigger and bigger piece of the pie. And then just basic research. That's a lot of the things that go to the universities, or companies do that as well. Now, the way we award it, the technical people are the required. The facilities folks, information technology, or a scientist or engineer define a requirement. They tend to identify some required sources. We add them. And here's where you come in. To be a small business today, you're probably in a, I know it's a tough business environment. We're really going through some tough budget times in the economy. But, you've really got the administration on your side. President Obama has declared that he wants to support small businesses to bring the economy back. He is convinced, and his advisors and the Office of Managed Budget are convinced that if we can foster small businesses, you all are the ones that can grow and help the economy. So they're not kidding about this. They are calling the administrators of the agencies. Administrator Bolden goes over to the White House once a quarter and reports how NASA's doing, personally. They don't want Bird down at Pasadena showing up or someone else. They want to see the administrator. So if you don't think we're getting some pressure to do business with small businesses, we are. We're really getting encouraged to do that. So, and that's why we're working it so hard. And that's why Steve and Edgar are really working hard. So you're going to receive a nice welcome from all government organizations, frankly, all federal government organizations, because they are being pushed very hard to do business with small businesses. So this is a good time to be aggressive. But at any rate, we go through some of the same processes as the city and Caltech do. You issue a solicitation of some sort, a little quote, or a request for proposal, select a source, negotiate a price, and award a contract. JPL awards what we call subcontracts, since we're under a prime contract to NASA, but it's essentially a contract. And it varies from purchase order, not a small, simple agreement, maybe use a purchase card, like a charge card. And then we have some blanket agreements, pre-existing agreements. We work with General Services Administration, and we do some e-commerce. So we have a variety of mechanisms to do purchasing. And then the subcontracts, which is a formal, much larger contract. And I'm sorry to tell you, it has all those government clauses in it that go on forever, and some of them near unintelligible. I can say that because I'm a lawyer too. Sometimes I read and go, okay, I need to read that about 3 more times. But to get into JPL, one, we have some workshops and conferences that you need to get in touch with the Business Opportunities Office and get the schedule for those. And then, come out, make contacts, make an appointment with them, talk to them. See, they can help target you when you explain what your business does or what your skill and talent is. They can help steer you towards those offices or departments that you'd have some opportunity with. And I'll be blunt with you. Sometimes they need to tell you that we're not doing that. I know a couple of years ago, I think we had a lot of feeling that, wow, there's a bunch of construction going on at JPL, and it was just 2 or 3 companies were doing it all, and nobody was getting a chance at it. And I said, we need to tell them what we're doing, which is not much. We don't have much money. So we actually had a little conference, and I don't know, we had 20 local firms, maybe, quite a few, come out. And honestly, what we told them was, here are the few projects we've had, some little maintenance projects. We did build a flight project center, which is a huge job, and now we're building a parking garage here soon. But in between that, it's pretty slim. And frankly, sometimes that's good for people to know that, hey, I don't need to keep spinning my wheels thinking there's some pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. There's no pot of gold. So part of that was just straight talk. We will be honest with you, and because we really want you to use your time wisely. So we'll help target you, but we'll be candid too and say, you know what, we're not doing very much of that. Now sometimes you'll have something so amazing you can create a need. So again, we don't want to turn that off. We'll help steer you in the right direction. And the other thing is exploring some other options. This conference we have in Los Angeles, the first one I went to, we had the 25th anniversary conference this year, so it's been going 25 years. I can't take any credit for it. A brilliant man created that conference, and he since passed away, but Tom May was an amazing individual, knew everybody the first time he met him. So he built this big conference, and one of the great things is, my first year here, 5 years ago, I was there. A young man came, shook my hand from Detroit, machine shop. Well, I got to tell you, there are a lot of machine shops. And, for us to do business in a machine shop in Detroit, we pass up about $1 billion of it from here to there. But, he came to the conference, went around, talked to everybody. And this guy couldn't have been older than 25. Got a subcontract with Northrop Grumman. And I saw him the next year. He said, Mr. Bird, I said, oh, you're back. Because that was the first one he attended. He said, yeah. He said, we got a subcontract last year. We went from 40 people to 90 in the midst of a very bad economy in Detroit. Now, if that's not a big deal for a machine shop, and he said, my boss told me I have to come to every one of these. So again, you got to be relentless. That's one of the things we tell people. You got to be relentless. Don't, the first time you contact somebody, you don't get anything, don't necessarily give up. But we'll also advise you, if you're barking down the wrong tree, if you're not gonna get anything, because we do want you to use your time wisely. But we have people give product demos. We get you on bidders list. There are a lot of options that our guys can explore with it. And the conference I'm talking about was the high-tech business conference that we had, the small business conference we had. But we have supplier fairs at JPL, that you can get the schedule for and come out for those. We have a roundtable conference to talk about with some of our major suppliers on how to do business with them. Because Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, right down, they all have similar processes to ours. They have a business development office or something like that, and they're pretty sophisticated. Many of them you have to go on their computer system and register and all that stuff. But to be honest with you, the other side of the process is like getting hired for a job. You can send an electronic resume to somebody, and they'll get 300 of them, and yours goes in there.
Carl mentioned that for a small business perspective, our administration today is really catering well to small business. I see it, I've felt it, and I've also heard it on the telephone. Our friends down at the LA District Corps of Engineer office, I have personally worked with them on projects in the past. And I check in once in a while looking for what kind of opportunities are out there. And I'll talk with one of the guys, and he'll say, well, hold on, let me get the computer, let me see what we have. He'll go through, we got this, small business. We got this one, it's a set aside. No, we don't have anything coming out, and it's probably going to be at least 6 months before we have an RFP for a Parsons type company. But and he'll start to name a few that are really tailored to small business. And the best thing about it is like Carl mentioned, the solicitation process, and I think Larry mentioned this also from the city standpoint, the solicitation process is very streamlined. when we go to bid for a job, it's a pretty healthy investment from a Parsons standpoint to bid that size contract that we would go after, but they get awarded very quickly because they want to get the small business involvement. So, good timing. Parson, what I thought I would do is give you a little bit of background, and like Carl mentioned, I've got quite a few slides, and I'll try to push through them fast. Maybe I can get a show of hands. How many of you are familiar with Parsons? Because we're a long-time Pasadena company. Yeah, so I probably don't have to give a whole lot of detail. Like I mentioned, we were in oil and gas, and it was very cyclical, and so our CEO, about nearly 10 years ago now, decided we're going to divest out of oil and gas, and so we did that, we sold it, and now we are really heavy into transportation, environmental and infrastructure, which is a lot of commercial buildings and utilities, PG&E kind of stuff, and then also our defense work, all of our federal contracts. We've actually bid for work at JPL at one time. So that's kind of the three business units that we have. Real quickly, that's our organizational chart. We are doing a lot of work overseas right now because domestic is kind of down. We are doing a lot of Middle East work in MENA, Middle East, North Africa, Australasia, and Latin America. We are moving into Latin America now. We just acquired a company that is probably going to help us get involved. And Canada is also another market that we're doing a lot of new work, and it's still sort of a new territory for us, but we have some good contracts. We have Parsons is a company that has very strong core values, and after all the years I've been there, I can say that it's absolutely true. We are at the peak of safety culture. To me, there's nothing that we shortcut when it comes to safety, and I know it, I live it. Our policy is no telephones on the road. If you're driving with a Bluetooth, it doesn't matter. And we have now terminated employees that were in a car accident, and their telephone bill said that they had the phone going at the time of the accident. And so that's pretty black and white. Ethics in Parsons, it's really a high standard, and I've seen the same thing happen in our ethics. And I think from a business standpoint, small business does have a lot of flexibility. You can do a lot of things. Constantly think about ethics. And I've seen it myself with small business on one of our projects, and I really don't want to be involved with it again. It was money. It was hey, thanks for this job, and I reported it, and it happens. We just have to be highly concerned that ethics can get you in the newspaper if there's an issue, and you don't want to have that. Our business services, we are engineering, procurement, construction. Those are the kinds of services that we do across the board, and I'm going to rush through these quickly. Transportation, we do all kinds of different transportation, road and highway, bridge and tunnel, rail and transit on the top left, and a lot of aviation projects. Locally, we're doing LAX, we're doing MTA work. So locally here, there's a few major projects, and there's a lot of budget that is going to be spent, both at LAWA, especially in transportation, LAX, and Metro. Internationally, don't know that anybody in this room is interested, but there's a lot of work in Dubai, and Abu Dhabi, and Qatar. Water, wastewater, we do a lot of those kinds of projects. Bakersfield, SNWA, Southern Nevada Water Authority, lots of long-term major programs, multi-billion-dollar projects. San Francisco, another multi-billion-dollar job. Buildings, healthcare, education, energy, life science, pharmaceutical. These are just some examples. Defense, this is our federal work. Federal projects in the past have been at the top of our revenue, along with transportation. Those are two markets that we've really, really relied on for many years. Defense, of course, now is a little bit down in spending. Shut down the base realignment work, closures, That's been a market that we've been involved with. Environmental, we do a lot of environmental work here locally, and that's kind of a lot of information. We're going to skip that one. So now we're down to some tailored slides here. Small business considerations. I think we're a little different from the other entities on the panel because we are private. Parsons is a privately owned company. We're employee owned, 100%. And so everything that we bid on is highly competitive. And we also have to really look hard at strategic teaming. So from a small business standpoint, I think this is where it's really important to look at your own companies and see what you bring to the table. And I think how you market your companies, you have to really think hard and see geographically, is it a fit? Parsons does some work in LA area, Pasadena area, but we do a lot of our work outside this area. So I don't know if your companies have an office or a body, a person. Small businesses I know do have a person, and they say we have an office, and that's good. If they have one person, that can be an office. If he works at home, or she works at home, that can be an office. That could be a resource, and sometimes strategically that could help in the sale. If we're doing a proposal and we can say that we have somebody in that city, man, that's what you need. Sometimes it's an absolute requirement, mandatory, that you have a local person with local knowledge and maybe a local office. So that can be an opportunity to integrate for geographic reasons. Services and products, of course, we're looking for very specialized people. A lot of times, either we need a specialized person or we have to meet the requirement for the percentage of the contract has to be small business of some kind. I already mentioned support to the, no, I didn't mention this. Support to clients. If you've worked with a client in the past and you have a wonderful relationship where that client has confidence in you, you bring a lot to the table. So that is a huge piece that you guys really shouldn't underestimate at all, because we need that. A lot of times we'll go after a contract in a city or a place or some specialized piece of work. If you guys have that talent and that relationship with a client, knows you, trusts you, and really believes in you, my gosh, that's highly marketable. So that's tied to our BD benefits. So I guess that just goes along to say, know your business, identify areas of possible business integration. You know, I think it's been said a few times already. You got to sell yourself, and it is not easy, but at the same time, you can be very strategic. And if you have the right resources within your companies, and you can find that connection where you integrate, my gosh, you're high value for teaming. So, how to team? Really understand and sell what you do, where you do work, and where it fits into Parsons, in our case, or a competitor of Parsons. I think you know, we've got a lot of competitors that we compete with, and I mean, we've had joint ventures. I shouldn't say JVs, I should say teaming subcontractors that say, well, I don't want to be exclusive, and I'll be on this proposal and that proposal with your competitor. Sometimes we'll take that. If we can be exclusive and it's really going to help us get the job, that's wonderful. But you know, it's do you want to be on two proposals or one? So it's a business decision. So anyhow, the last bullet says, see the tell us more form. I've got some in a bag in the back, and I'm going to hand them out. That's a form that basically it's pretty generic. Fill in the box, and it's got a checkbox for what kind of fields you're in, and it gives the key information to our small business manager, and she's in Washington, D.C. I'm going to give you her information. Her name is Gwen Johnson. She is in Washington, D.C. You don't have to write that down unless you're not able to get a form in the back. I've got 200 forms, so I don't think I'll run short. And so areas of small business management improvements. This is an interesting thing with Parsons. About a year and a half ago, we bought a new software because Parsons has been on I guess I'll say it's a little bit outdated, but it's a very powerful tool, but it's not compatible with federal government, which is where we're doing a lot of our work. And a lot of our clients don't like the system because it's we've generated it ourselves, it's proprietary, and so we're deciding now that after all these years it works great, but our clients are complaining too much, so we're giving it up. So we're going to a new system, and with that new system there's a module that tracks small business. So the information that you guys will be sending to Gwen Johnson will go into that, and it's a database that is now being developed in our new system. So it is actually good timing that the forms you're going to get today will get plugged into the new system, and it won't be part of the older system. So really what you need to do is get the information in to Gwen, and that way we can track it, reach you, and it's all sortable. It's a wonderful database that we can really use as a stronger tool. And this will go live while they're gathering the data now. It goes live at the end of this year. So it's been changing a corporate accounting system is a painful, very expensive process. So we've been in it for about a year and a half now. So I kind of touched on the selling points. Specialized expertise recognized by the client is important. Another point to make, safety. I mentioned earlier, our safety culture is incredibly, the standards are really high, and we don't want a team with a contractor that might bring our EMR down. We have a great EMR. It gives us very low workers' comp cost, and we're highly competitive, even in our construction fields, because our construction labor pays the same workers' comp rate as our office engineering staff. That's because of our record. So that makes us competitive on the construction side. We don't do a big volume of construction, but it is a market that we're looking at now. Our CEO has announced this year, in January, that we are focused in growing our construction markets. So it's definitely a growth area. Small business goals. Parsons is committed, always have been committed to having supplier diversity. Our goals are, because we're private, our goals are project driven. Every contract that is a public contract will have, I don't want to say every contract, but most all have targets for our small business goals. Those are what drive our procurements. So we don't have a corporate-wide goal because we are a project-driven company. Everything we do is based on a contract. You might have questions about the Pasadena campus. I thought I would put this in here because the first bullet, Parsons strategically divested also, not only from oil and gas, but from facilities ownership. We sold the Parsons campus, which was a heartbreak for me after I've been on field jobs in construction, and I've been in the home office. I always sort of viewed that as home. And then last year, or maybe the year before last, I can't remember, maybe it was late 2011, the campus sold, and now it's owned by Morgan Stanley, but it's managed by Lincoln Properties. So interesting, I suspect some of your companies are involved with facility management, local to Pasadena. We have some contracts that are still carrying over. We have a 15-year lease back, which started just about a year ago. So we have some facility contracts, but before this conference, I touched base with our facilities people, and those are highly limited. So another entity that I would say that it might be worth contacting is also this Lincoln Properties, because they not only have the Parsons Tower, because we are downsized to Pasadena, the two pods, east and west annex, not pods, the two annexes are owned by or leased by Kaiser. And they have a lot of facilities, a lot of people, and a lot of operations. So Lincoln Investment takes care of those 100%. So that's how we've done our facilities. Just a couple examples there. And that's the end of my slideshow. I guess for questions, maybe open the floor? I'll let you shut that down.
So again, on behalf of Pasadena Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to thank you all for participating. I also want to just take this opportunity to remind you, and these cards are in the back, but we have Restaurant Week coming up here, April 21st through April 26th, and so be sure to visit the many restaurants in the city of Pasadena that are doing specials for lunch and dinner, and that's on our chamber website. So thank you for participating in the very first of our access opportunity forums, and we hope that you found this successful. We'll continue to doing these in the future. And again, thank Workforce Investment Board for sponsoring this, and also Pasadena City College, the Community Education Center, and the Small Business Development Center for hosting us today, and of course our presenters who did a fabulous job of letting you know how you can work with them. So thank you very much for coming, and please take your time to talk to everyone at the back of the room.